Thank you, Kevin, for that wonderful presentation. Can you please tell us how you first got involved with the research topic?
Thank you for having me. I first heard of the research program through my roommate and friend because she participated in this program 1 year prior with young workers. Actually, there's one presentation on the website with Jaylee talking about that. But what really got me interested in this research program was the research topic, which was around street vending, and I knew prior to that that a lot of these individuals are undocumented. And going with my prior experience working with traffic victims, coming from the Philippines to the United States to really help support their families or really get out the conditions that they just couldn't really survive. Um, I saw like similarities between the struggles that these individuals and the individuals that I surveyed. A lot of them, because of the conditions back in their home countries, were really forced to immigrate to the United States for a better life. And I felt that you shouldn't really criminalize um, immigration, especially if this country, the United States, has had a hand in enforcing displaced individuals to move to other countries to either better support themselves or to simply live a life.
It sounds like your identity and the way you relate and understand and work with your community has a you saw the parallel struggle in this other community, and that was a source of academic strength for you in this process. That's amazing. And that's so great that you had an opportunity to connect the two worlds together.
Hmm.
Did anything else come from that process in doing that type of work?
Um, well, right now I'm taking social welfare, and I'm actually looking into a migrant youth taking the trip to go to the United States and really um, relocating with his mother, and it really pulled me emotionally because I've seen how family members had to leave their countries and then to go to a new country and work really hard. And the fact that a lot of these images or these perceptions of the United States aren't actually true. And when they find themselves here, it's really hard for them to go back. And there's like this separation, this anxiety between parent and child. And I've seen it within my own family and how the separation really um, has a very big impact on my parents' um, mental health. They're always worrying about, especially right now because I'm in college, like really how to help finance myself to go through college, but also supporting our families back in the Philippines. And I see that with the community that I surveyed during summer and the story that I'm reading right now for my social welfare class.
So maybe something that students can learn from your experience and your presentation is that in doing engaged research projects, they can fully engage their identities
Hmm.
and their histories and name them in their research and develop them further.
Right. There's a lot of um, similarities between our different communities and their experiences, and with that, I found it doesn't feel very isolating because there's other individuals out there that have similar experiences as you are or your family is going through, and with that, you could find a community for yourself to really um, e- understand some of the economic and social policies that make us go through these experiences that we're having right now.
So you had a very rich summer research project,
Hmm.
and then you're tasked with putting together a presentation. So how do you go from having this experience and then selecting information to present?
Right. So one of the things I really wanted to highlight is like how to get into these programs because they're not really that advertised at UCLA. You have to really know people or um, find people that have these programs or at least these opportunities to do research. I was lucky enough to have a friend of mine go through this program, and actually know the student advisor who really advocated for me to go through these research during the summer. Yeah, which helped me further understand the research process, and hopefully the things that I learned in that research process I could give back to my own community. A lot of my community-based organization, Anak Bayan Los Angeles, does a lot of community-based research, integrating within the community, learning about their experiences here in LA, and hopefully from that community research, we could create the next steps, like what's the best way to help this community before they actually did a research in Long Beach where they interviewed caregivers, and from that they fought for the care the I think the Caregivers Bill of Rights. There's a lot of provisions in that bill, but unfortunately got watered down into overtime pay, but it's still a win for these caregivers because oftentimes they don't have a set clock time to go out of work. Some of them even live in their workplaces, which makes it harder to have a set time for breaks, for lunch.
For sleeping,
yes. Sleeping. A lot of them have to wake up to take care of their clients, either early night or late evening.
Right. So you see the parallels between the Care Workers Bill of Rights and then what they're trying to achieve with the Street Vending Bill of Rights, and how both communities kind of have the same struggles. And just a sidebar, on the Engage Research portal, in the homepage, there's about your engaged research, and there is a list of engaged research opportunities that you can participate here in UCLA, and engaged research scholarships that you can apply for. So I'll be sure to direct folks in your about links for more opportunities, because something else that you're bringing up that's really important is how do we access these opportunities to be able to do this type of research. So in going back to you presenting your research, what sort of advice would you give to students who are preparing for a class presentation and don't know what to select to present, or are feeling, overwhelmed or very nervous about doing a class presentation?
Right. Actually, for me, I have a hard time speaking in front of other people. I find myself starting early, looking through the research process and seeing what should I highlight, what difficulties have I encountered throughout the process. And then if I have enough time, go through with my advisor, my research advisor, or my professor, and see how I could better present the material that I want to present to my audience. And it's always good to make your slides short and sweet so that people aren't bored or they're not zoning out because there's a lot of words, because nobody would really unfortunately have the time or the effort sometimes to listen through long paragraphs on slides. And also cutting the words with pictures to help visualize the process, like what I did in my presentation, having those sites, that field observation map that I drew in pencil really helps out.
Okay. Any last words of advice to students, especially I'm thinking about us first generation low income students of color that feel like, we have imposter syndrome all the time, and need maybe support to be able to navigate this process, because it can be overwhelming, and that's totally normal.
How to present this material is you really need to know the research process and highlight
And highlight the findings?
Highlight the findings, but also highlight the difficulties that you have. A lot of times, we read, we hear about these research, and we don't hear about the difficulties in doing them.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my research process, there was a lot of technological difficulties when conducting surveys through the app that we used. But that's part of the research process. It's not perfect, but there's always space to improve your research further down in the line. And also having regular or guided support with your TA or with the professor or with the research advisor that you're conducting research for, because they would provide all the necessary tools that you would need to conduct this research or to present this research to a group, because they've probably done it before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And especially if we're going to demystify the process of doing research, talking about our challenges is part of the demystifying process, because I think oftentimes when people hear presentations and the research turns out perfectly and you have really impactful findings, you feel like you're not perfect enough to do that type of research. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you everyone for listening.